Hello everyone and welcome to the Sideboard here, the Las Vegas Open Series featuring the Invitational. I'm Glenn Jones and I'm joined by Chris VanMeter.
Hello.
Hello Chris, we have you here because on SCG Live we aired the first ever live Versus series. I believe you're aware of that because you were in it.
Absolutely, and it was fun. I think it was really cool. I would like to do some more live Versus videos. It was really neat being able to just be in the moment the entire time. I felt like I was actually interacting with the audience more, even though I couldn't see any of their feedback in the chat. Whereas, like when we're normally recording it, we're still trying to interact with the audience, but this just actually felt like there were people watching because there were.
There's a difference between the act of producing content and the act of putting on a show, as it were.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad you had fun. The deck that you chose was Ben Stark's Orzhov mid-range deck. I should say CFB's Orzhov mid-range deck. A lot of them played it at the last Grand Prix and to very respectable finishes, including top 8s. So, first off, what made you want to play Ben's deck in this event?
Well, I am very familiar with the white-based aggressive decks. I've been on the Orzhov Aggro deck for some time.
Very good deck.
And I felt that Orzhov Charm and Necromancer were going to be an upgrade to Boros Charm, which is the only reason to play red in the previous version. Unfortunately, it's looking like the format is switching more towards everybody just jamming as many Blood Barons into their deck as they can. So I would rather stay with the red than be with the black. But prior to that, I thought that it was a very good choice. Having Orzhov Charm to be able to kill cards like Nightveil Spectre and Master of Waves, which are two of the most popular cards in the format and two very good cards against any white-based aggressive deck. It's just a huge win.
Yeah, a lot of people have been looking for the removal spell they need, in order to beat decks that have access to very specific threats. You've got like Desecration Demon, Nightveil Spectre, which you mentioned, Master of Waves, even the little guys like Cloudfin Raptor. Like there are all these creatures, and you're just trying to find a removal spell that hits everything. It's pretty tough. There's really not anything that nails all of them. Orzhov Charm, pretty much. Obviously, it's got some limitations.
It is the closest.
Yeah, the fact that you have to lose some life kind of hurts, but it also has some more versatile modes. You can bounce a guy back to your hands. Very useful trick in combat, obviously, especially against Blood Baron, a card you have problems with. You can attack into it or block.
Absolutely. You can activate a Mutavault and block it with the Mutavault, which is the only creature in the deck that can block a Blood Baron, and then bounce it back to your hand and prevent them from gaining life.
Totally reasonable, and of course, the pseudo-unearth mode is quite live when you have a deck with as many 1-drops as the white-black aggro deck.
Absolutely, and it's really good because of Soldier of the Pantheon. There's a lot of these new green-white decks that are coming out. People are starting to get back on Voices of Resurgence as a way to try and attack the Esper and blue-white decks, and Soldier of the Pantheon is just very good against them. It also you can keep attacking through a Blood Baron with it if they have to stay back on D.
Very true. So Boros Charm, biggest reason to go red. Orzhov Charm, among the biggest reasons to go black, but you actually get a fair bit more. You obviously have access to a variety of removal spells, including Dark Betrayal, which is an excellent sideboard card. Mono Black Devotion's been running it for ages now. You get to tag in as well. And then another sweet card you get to run is Zathrid Necromancer. We all remember Zathrid Necromancer. When it came out, it was a pretty big deal. Changed a lot of decks around, offered a lot of aristocrat stuff to various archetypes. We haven't seen it much since then, but in this deck it seems excellent.
Yeah, it's very good in this deck. The biggest comparison is to Boros Charm. Boros Charm is protection against Supreme Verdict, as well as allow you to attack through creatures, push through damage, and give all your guys indestructible. So it's like a pseudo Brave the Elements. The only difference is that Boros Charm can also do 4 damage to your opponent, and Necromancer cannot.
Did you notice any issues with the mana base? Obviously, you're running a few more black cards than most of the Boros lists do, as far as red cards go.
I actually did not. I read a lot online if people were recommending potentially playing an Overgrown Tomb over the basic swamp, since it can also cast Dryad Militant.
Sure.
But I feel like you don't really need it. It's a pretty corner case, to be honest.
Yeah, I know that Ben Stark came out to this event and played in the Invitational as well as the Open, and I think he actually wound up opting for Tormented Hero over Dryad Militant, adding a few more swamps to his deck. And I think he had to cut the Precinct Captains to do that, which is pretty large cut, but that's another option you can go.
I think that just takes the deck in a completely different direction.
Yeah. At that point, you're kind of counter-slivering at that point.
Yeah, but honestly, besides Mutavault, Precinct Captain is the best creature in the deck.
He's very, very powerful, to be sure. All right, well, do you have any more tips for people who might want to pick up the deck at home, maybe try it out?
I definitely would play Devour Flesh out of the sideboard. So Blood Baron is a huge problem. It's a very popular card. Devour Flesh is about the only answer that you're actually going to be able to play with.
Sure.
And I think that it's probably better than Doomblade. So Dark Betrayal is still good because it hits Demon and Spectre. and Devour Flesh will give you an answer to Blood Baron, but it can also hit Demon Inspector. And I think that since you have the Orzhov Charms and Banisher Priest already, you're still pretty good against cards like Master of Waves.
Yeah, I know it can seem kind of awkward to have a Devour Flesh in your aggro deck too, but this deck isn't like the Boros deck. You know, you're not leaning on those Boros Charms to the face. You can actually grind people out pretty consistently with your creatures.
Absolutely.
Especially when backed by Spear of Heliod, one of my favorite cards in that deck.
Yeah, Spear is real good.
All right, Chris. Well, all of our viewers will be able to see how the match went shortly. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.